Hello and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about saying no. This is something that is definitely a skill that has to be acquired, used sparingly. But it's worth remembering that, yes, you were probably hired to do a job. But you are not an automaton. You do have, free will. You do have the ability to assess a situation and figure out whether it's something you should be doing or not. Now, I'm going to say that just flat refusing to do something that somebody has asked or required that you do, that should be your absolute last resort. You should almost never just flat out say, no, I'm not doing that. Because, yeah, you were hired to perform a function, and refusing to perform your function that you were being paid to do is, that's technically, that could be insubordination, that could be grounds for termination. You don't really want to do that unless you absolutely have to. And to be honest, there's very few situations where that should come up. And in fact, I'd say that if that comes up frequently, then you're probably not working for the right, organization or person or company or whatever. But usually what'll happen, or my advice rather than just saying no, is to present information and say, are you sure that this is the way that we should be doing whatever it is? Or present information that you think maybe would be relevant to the task that somebody had wanted you to do. And I know that sounds funky, and let me explain. Maybe I'll try to explain by an example. We had at one of the places that I had worked, we had a satellite office that was connected back. It had its own internet connection that was used as a private circuit back to the main location. And the corporate office had decided that they wanted to repurpose that connection, that dedicated circuit, into a different kind of circuit. And once they did that, that was going to disrupt the connection, and it was going to impact the workflow of that satellite location sending information back to the main location. And they had made some assumptions, and they had gotten a plan together, and they had called me to say, hey, okay, here's our plan, here's what we're going to do. And I looked at the plan, and I asked some questions, and I said, what is this going to do? What's this going to mean? And the long and short of it is that there were some considerations, some information that they were not aware of, which led them to create a plan that was not workable. And I knew it wasn't workable. I knew it was not going to be what we wanted, but I had to, provide the additional information. I didn't just say, yeah, I'm not doing that. I said, yeah, this is kind of what we use this for, and is this going to still work once we're done? And they said, oh, well, no, that's not going to work, and we probably need to reconsider. And that, I think, is the way, a good way to approach these situations, is to, provide additional information, let your concerns be heard, and if, the powers that be, the decision makers, if they decide to push ahead anyway, well, you told them, that there's going to be a problem, and if there's a problem later on, you can't, you can't say that they weren't informed. I would almost even do this thing via email, so there's a paper trail saying that, yeah, I told you this was going to be a problem. I mean, you don't say, yeah, I told you so. You don't want to, throw it up in their face, but it's one of those CYA deals where you just want to let everyone know that you anticipated this. And if you're wrong, hey, even better. You can say, yeah, I really thought that was going to be a problem, but it turned out to be a non-issue. That's great. That is also fine. Because, like I said earlier, you were hired, typically you were hired to do to perform a function, but you were also usually hired because you had or have developed certain skills that allow you to assess a situation, especially if you're in technical support or any kind of technical field, that you can assess a situation and provide a plan to solve an issue. So your insights will have value, even if you are not the decision maker. I have never worked with a decision maker who was not receptive, or at least pretended to be receptive to feedback from a plan that they had done. Some of them didn't like it. Some of them, I would point out flaws that I perceived in some of their plans, and that would sometimes get them upset at me. So you have to be careful. You don't want to just be you don't want to be a jerk about it. But now there's other instances where someone will tell you that they want, a project that they want you to do, and what they're asking is not possible. It's not physically possible, but they'll insist that you do it anyway, or that it is possible, but you can tell from the what they're asking for that what they're wanting is not going to solve the problem that they're having. As an example, I worked with someone who decided that he wanted dual monitors at his workstation, which is reasonable. I mean, it's a reasonable, productive tool to have multiple monitors at a desk if you can do it. And we had the monitors. That wasn't an issue. The issue was that his desk was too small. And I went in and I took some measurements, and I said, yeah, we could put two monitors here, but they would almost be overlapping. You can't. The way that his desk was set up, the two monitors would meet right in the center of his field of vision, so he'd be staring right at two bezels. He'd always have his head turned one way or another, which is bad for ergonomics. And I explained all this, but he wanted to do it anyway. And we ended up doing it, and I'd voiced my objections to him and to my own supervisor, and I said, look, this is what he wants. I don't think it's a good idea, but we're going to do it anyway. But my thought was that he was going to like, even though I was sure he wasn't going to like it, he wanted it so bad, he wanted it so badly, that he was going to make himself like it, no matter how terrible of an idea it was. And he did, and he said, oh yeah, it's great, I love it. Which maybe he honestly and truly really does like it. I'm not him, and I could have been wrong in my assessment, but if all I really know is that if it was me, I wouldn't have been happy with how it turned out. I would have actually preferred one large monitor rather than two monitors positioned awkwardly like that. So that, it's, I would just say, be judicious in saying no. Don't just flat out say no. Raise objections. Provide additional information. Do the thing that you were put in that position to do, but just remember that you're not a robot. You have free will. You can affect change at your local level. And I found, going back, I found that generally, the further away the decision to do a thing is made from where the output of the decision is going to happen, the more likely it is that there are going to be considerations that have not been taken into local considerations that haven't been taken into account. It's just like with the networking example earlier. The decision was made, 4 or 5 levels of management away from where the implementation was actually going to be, and in my opinion, they didn't do their due diligence down at at a low enough level to be aware of the potential issues. And in those cases, I would say that it is absolutely expected that if a problem comes up, that they need to be made aware of that. So, speak your mind. Don't be a jerk about it. Do what you think is right, which is what most of all this comes down to anyway. But I'm rambling, so I'll cut it here. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again soon.